Hey y'all, welcome back to my channel. Now that we're a little ways into the new year, I thought it was time to talk about some self-destructing books, both looking at how my list from last year went and looking at my new list for 2026. If you're not familiar with self-destructing books, this is a concept originally created by Becca and the Books. And the idea is that it's a set of books that if you don't read them within a specified amount of time, you have to unhaul them. And I was really inspired by that. I thought it would be a useful way to prioritize some things that have been languishing on my shelves for a while, or books that I kind of bought on a whim and now I'm not sure are really going to be to my tastes. And so far that has been the case. It's worked really well for me. And I think this is the fourth year that I put together a self-destructing books list. So I'm hoping that it will continue to be just as successful as I am kind of in this ongoing process of trying to read down and clear out my own TBR. So I figure we can start by looking at last year's list and how that went, and I am happy to say that I unhauled most of these books unread. I have not finished a single book on last year's list, and I say I'm happy to say that because I think what really was successful in my 2025 list was that I weeded out some books that are going to be for another reader, but not for me. And I've gotten those out of my collection and moved on to some other people who will hopefully love them. So starting out in the first part of the year, I was getting ready to move in February, and so I needed to get rid of some things because I couldn't move everything. And I ended up unhauling 6 of the books, just like right off the bat, completely unread. Only one of them kind of hurt, and that was The Hungry Earth by Nicholas Kaufman. I love his work typically, and this is the start of a medical thriller series that he's writing that sounded really cool, but this first book was doing terrible things to my OCD. It's a sort of like horror medical thriller thing, and the particular medical aspect of this one was just making me really anxious every time I tried to pick up the book. It just was not going to work for me, and I was really bummed because the series does sound really cool, but that's the one book on this list that I think I am actually like pretty sad about having unhauled. The others that I unhauled right at the start of the year were Vicious by V.E. Schwab, Death by Dumpling by Vivian Chen, A Dark and Hollow Star by Ashley Shuttleworth, The Dark Descent of Elizabeth Frankenstein by Kirsten White, and Station 11 by Emily St. John Mandel. The other 6, I ended up doing a chapter in the later part of the year. I think it was in November, right before Reindeer Readathon. I originally planned a vlog, but that kind of fell through. But I did do a chapter, which resulted in me unhauling three after a single chapter, and 2 more after 2 chapters. So, A Tale for the Time Being by Ruth Ozeki, I read a chapter. This one did not work for me. I really didn't like the character voice for one of our main characters. It sounded not like a teenager, but like a middle-aged person trying to emulate a teenager, and I really found it kind of grating, so that one didn't work for me. Midnight at the Bright Ideas Bookstore, I didn't like the way that the writing was really quirky and the characters were really quirky, but it was setting up this really serious mystery, and I don't think the two things were being balanced well, so that one just didn't work for me. And then Rabbits by Terry Miles. This one I actually still have access to. I unhauled it by giving it to my partner. He was interested in it, and I may borrow it back from him at some point to read it, but this is just a little bit overly vague for me. I did like the second chapter. The first chapter was so short I did read into the second chapter, but again, it was just a little too vague for me, and I didn't think I was going to get to it anytime soon. So after that, I had a couple more that I wanted to read. I still had The Winds Are Not by an author's name I can't remember, but it'll be on the screen. Firebreak by Nicole Cornerstace, and Little Thieves by Margaret Ellen. And I ended up DNFing and unhauling The Winds Are Not after 2 chapters, and Firebreak after 2 chapters. For The Winds Are Not, the problem for me was that the main characters are like the late queen and her family, and all, it's the British royals basically are the central characters. And it was making me really uncomfortable to be reading about real people written as fictional characters, like real mostly living, breathing people being characterized that way. It just was making me uncomfortable, so I decided to stop reading it. And then Firebreak, I just was not terribly interested in the world that it was setting up. I was intrigued by the first chapter. I thought it was very exciting, but then I was just not terribly interested in this sort of like dystopian world that it was setting up, because I'm just not a huge fan of dystopias. And then finally, we had Little Thieves by Margaret Owen. This is the one book I'm bending the rules slightly for because I haven't finished it, but I am currently reading it. I started it right before Reindeer Readathon and had to set it down. I am planning to finish it this year, but I am really enjoying it. I'm like 100 pages in. I really like our main character. I really like the humor of the book. I think it's doing some interesting things with its relationships. So I'm fully invested in Little Thieves and planning to finish it in 2026. So then moving on to this year's list, I've got a pretty broad range of books here. It kind of covers a lot of the different genres I have on my shelves. The first book, though, is The Unbroken by C.L. Clarke. This is a book that my best friend read and didn't care for, and she wants me to read it so that we can talk about it, but the things that she didn't like in it are things that I think will also bother me. They're things that I typically don't like as well, but I do still want to give the book a chance because sometimes she and I don't totally align on our reading tastes. Actually, we frequently don't align, so I do want to give the book a chance to impress me, but I don't have super high hopes for it. Then we have The Lost Kings by Tyrell Johnson. I picked this one up on a whim when I was at my local library because they were selling some of the old books they were culling out of their collection, and I just thought that the dedication on the inside page was really sweet. The author wrote about how he wrote the book for his wife, so it's full of things that she likes in a thriller, and he hopes that the readers like it too. I just thought that was really sweet. That kind of drew me in, and the plot does sound fun. It's about a young woman who's looking for her missing father and brother. They disappeared when she was young and like out of a cabin that they were all staying in, and now many years later she has a chance to try and figure out what happened to them, but I don't know. Other than that, it sounds pretty generic, and I don't really know what to expect going into it, but I don't know that I feel like having a sweet dedication is a good reason for adding books to my shelves. Then we have next two, I would say, are books that were by new-to-me authors, where the first time I tried to read them, they weren't totally clicking with me, but there are elements of both that I think are interesting that I kind of want to come back to and give a second chance. So we have All Her Little Secrets, yes, by Wanda M. Morris, and this one is about a woman who I believe is in like a legal firm, and there is a mystery. I don't remember what the mystery is. Oh, her boss, like, dies, and she gets a chance to, like, take his place, but it seems like there's a bunch of shady stuff going on. The premise sounds really cool. I just wasn't totally getting along with the character writing, but I think I also was kind of slumping at the time, so I wanted to give this one a second chance, and I'm hoping this will help me get back to it and stop putting it off because I knew I didn't get along with it the first time. And then similarly, Portrait of a Thief by Grace D. Lee. This was a debut, and I was really enjoying parts of it, but I also felt like all of the characters were kind of samey. All the character voices were very samey, so despite it being a multi-POV, it was kind of hard to tell who I was reading from. But again, I don't want my kind of initial reaction to the book to prevent me from coming back to it because there were some elements of this that I thought were really fun, that I was really interested in, and I want to give it another shot. Next up, we have a book that I am actually like halfway through, and have been halfway through for a while. It's Finley Donovan is Killing It by El Cosimano. Why did I forget the author's name? I started this one, I want to say in like 2022. I had just started my master's degree, and I remember sitting and reading this one while I was on campus one day while waiting for it to be time to go to class, and I remember really enjoying a lot of it. But there were also a lot of elements that were giving me kind of secondhand embarrassment, and that is like one emotion I simply cannot handle, and so I was kind of putting off finishing it. I don't typically like a cozy mystery, but I think that this is a version of that idea that I was really enjoying. But again, the secondhand embarrassment is making it really hard for me to finish it. And next up we have, take my receipt out of it, The Verifiers by Jane Peck. This was another kind of, not cozy mystery exactly, but like amateur detective mystery that I picked up on a whim while I was at my local bookstore. They had it on one of their display tables. It looked kind of cool. And since then, I've gotten a sense that this particular kind of mystery, where it is sort of a cozier amateur detective kind of a thing, doesn't generally work for me. I'm very picky about this kind of book, so I'm thinking that it'd be good to prioritize this and see if it's going to be a version of that I like. The next book on here is another one that I am like well into, and the reason it's on this list is entirely because I just need to force myself to finish it. It's Empire of the Vampire by Jay Kristoff. I am 200 pages into this book. I was enjoying this book. I cannot tell you why I put this book down, but I need to finish it, and so it's on this list because I need to force myself to get back to it and finish it. And I cannot explain to you why that is, but I'm hoping that it works. Next up, we have the one nonfiction on this list. It's H.P. Lovecraft by Charlotte Montague. This is a nonfiction book about H.P. Lovecraft, and my mom bought me this for Christmas several years ago when I was much more interested and invested in his work. I had started reading H.P. Lovecraft when I was in high school, and I was really interested in Eldritch Horror. I became kind of interested in learning more about him beyond what we all know, that he was a terrible person. And I think that my interest in him has kind of waned. My interest in his work waned a very long time ago now, and I haven't really read anything by him in a while, but I feel like I need to just like read this or get rid of it, because again, I don't think I'm that interested in learning about him as I was. I think the greatest thing about H.P. Lovecraft is that his work has gone on to inspire significantly better writers. Then we have When Women Were Dragons by Kelly Barnhill. This is a book I bought completely on a whim while I was browsing the bookstore before my best friend's master's degree graduation. She graduated about the same time I was starting. I think she graduated in 2022, and I started a few months later. But I went to her graduation. We went to the same university, and I was on campus just kind of waiting around until it was time to go to the ceremony, and dropped into the campus bookstore, picked this up, and now I don't know why I have it. So I feel like I need to read it or get rid of it, because I don't have a good reason for having bought this other than I was bored and kind of waiting to be somewhere else. Another one I bought on a whim, we have Hummingbird Salamander by Jeff Vandermeer. This one I've not really heard anything about. I know Annihilation by this author is very popular in that whole series, and I know this is a popular author for like weird science fiction, which I'm intrigued by, and I'm wanting to explore science fiction more in 2026. So this is, again, kind of a way for me to push this into the top of my priority list, because it's something I want to give a try. I want to try some more weirder science fiction, and also I, for some reason, have a signed edition with additional content. I think I bought this at my local bookstore. It was another one they probably had on one of their nice display tables, and they probably had like a little bookseller recommendation card with it, and I got intrigued. But I don't really remember why I picked this up, aside from it was probably on a cool table at some point, and I just want to give it a try. But I don't really know what to expect, because this is not a book by Jeff Vandermeer that I've really heard much of anyone talk about. Next up, we have our penultimate book, actually, which is yet another book that I tried and kind of bounced off of on my first attempt. This is The House of Silk by Anthony Horowitz. This is a Sherlock Holmes story. But this one, I think, was the, like, sort of official continuation. I think he had, like, permission from the Conan Doyle estate to do, like, a continuation of the Sherlock Holmes story. I just didn't really care for the writing the first time around. That's all I can really say on it. I don't remember anything else about this, and it's been a very long time now since I originally picked this up. Finally, we have Murder Your Employer, The McMaster's Guide to Homicide, Book 1, by Rupert Holmes. And this one is a book that my mom and I were both kind of interested in. I think she bought it, and then she gave it to me when she was done with it. She DNF'd it. She didn't like it. So now I'm a little bit reticent to read it. I don't know that I'm going to end up enjoying it. Although my mom and I do, in some ways, have very different reading tastes. So I think it's possible that while she didn't like it, I could end up loving it. But I don't know. I just don't have, like, a super strong opinion on this one. And I just kind of want to give it a try and see what happens. So those are my self-destructing books for 2026. Let me know down in the comments below if you've read any of these, and if you think that there's anything here I should definitely prioritize, or anything here that you think I could probably pass on. I'd love to know your opinions, and I really hope you've enjoyed this video. If you have, I hope you consider giving it a like, maybe even subscribing to see what comes next. I'm currently posting at least once a week, and I hope to see you in the next video. Bye.